Ladakh is the western end of the Himalayan range, a high semi-desert landscape and part of India's frontier to the line of control with China. Ladakh is a trekker and climber playground with a lifetime of options to choose from. My first visit to Ladakh was to attempt a traverse of the Mentok range, standing above the high alpine lake of Tso Moriri. It's a 6-hour jeep drive from the Ladakhi capital of Leh. The roads are in fairly good condition, maintained by the army, and you will need to organise a permit in Leh that you'll need to present at 3 or 4 checkpoints on the drive. The small township of Karzok, at 4,500 metres, sits on the shoreline of Tso Moriri, such stark beauty in a hostile environment. But the residents are very friendly and welcoming to the growing number of tourists visiting to experience the Tso Moriri life. My room at the Dolphin Guest House. Spacious sitting area, and even comes with a steam iron. Another snowstorm before bed. After a relaxed breakfast, I began the 7-kilometre trek to base camp under Mentok 3. Moving slowly, with the oxygen levels reducing with every step. Fully aware I needed another night of acclimatisation at 5,300 metres before climbing up onto the 6,000 metre range for the next few days. There are a couple of good base camp options just under the Mentok snowfield. It's such a beautiful place to camp, perched high above Tso Moriri, with sweeping views across to Chamsalunga on the far side. And this is about the third shower I've had today. My plan was a 6-day full traverse of the Mentok range from Mentok 1 all the way north to the shark fin, but that was immediately in doubt from a boot malfunction. Oh, this is disappointing. My sole is coming off my boot. I had the night to consider my options. My initial plan was to climb the east ridge of Mentok 1. However, given the sole of my left boot was come off, I decided overnight that I would continue, but it was likely the sole would come off my boot at some point. So I decided to shorten the traverse slightly by ascending Mentok 3, bypassing my intended start of Mentok 1. The Ascent of Mentok 3 is quite straightforward, graded alpine PD, small difficulty. The snow slope leads to a broad ridge that is followed to the summit. The snow conditions vary by season. My ascent in August was all on snow until the final summit scramble, but apparently there are times when the ascent is entirely on rock. I was living at sea level 3 days earlier. The 900-metre ascent took me 4 hours. Depending on your acclimatisation level, you'll likely spend more time stopped trying to breathe than actually moving. From that nice little rest stop, you see up maybe to the summit there's some prayer flags. The final section up to the summit is a little bit rocky, but there's a scree track winding its way up. Looking south, that's Mentok 1. Not very far at all, but given that I'm not acclimatised, that's going to take a long time to get to. The summit has fine views in all directions. And that's the way on to Mentok 2. It's supposed to be about 100 metres higher, but it doesn't look it. And then further across we've got the Rupshu ice shelf in Yalangnong. Looking west, lots of mountains, pretty bad weather. The view from Mentok 3 was foreshortened Going up to Mentok too was just a massive snow slope, really wide. At sea level that would have just taken 15 or 20 minutes. It took me 2 hours. On the summit of Mentok too, it's just a flat snow dome, heavily corniced, so I'm not going to get any nearer than this. More bad weather coming, so time for me to come off the ridge and find somewhere to camp for the night with water. There's the lake I spotted from Google Earth. There are actually a couple of smaller lakes higher up. Camp for night 2. More snow showers coming. And that's the snow slope, maybe a glacier, that I descended. Camped last night above the big lake there. It's taken me about 2.5 hours to get back up to the ridge, but it's important to sleep low. Looking west to the main Himalayan range, we're just slightly north of it. This is the route on. I planned the route entirely from Google Earth satellite images, selecting likely campsites and how I'd approach and descend each peak. As it turned out, the range was much tamer than I expected. The cols were generally high and the ridges quite rounded. There was very little climbing and only a few scrambles. The key challenge was the altitude, which eased each day with further acclimatization. Quite a beautiful ridgeline there to Sura Shuva. It's not going to be as quick as I thought. Very sort of jaggedy. You can't just walk quickly. That was a nice ridge. The ridge across my watch has us 10 metres higher than the other point, far side. Sura Shuva is the highest point of the range, but I was more concerned with my boot as the heel had just come away. There's the shark fin. I think I'm going to descend down here to camp tonight. So nice to have some greenery in my surroundings for the night. First climbing since Mentok 3. Flat light, you can't really see it. Very vague ridge. And I'm on the shark fin. This is the end of the Mentok range traverse. The sole finally detached from my boot on the ascent up to the shark fin. I wore crampons for the descent, front pointing down the 45-degree slope, and was welcomed by my first living creature that I'd seen for 5 days. All that remained was a 25-kilometre trek, stopping every kilometre or so to retape the sole to the toe of my boot, which only just lasted back to Karzok. A number of shepherd tents around Guyana. Big herd of sheep going up valley. Special to see some Kayang.